Okay, I have a sample introduction for this idea. So again, we with the guys decided to work with the idea of Bartleby the Scrivener through the lens of a sociological issue, in this case, homelessness. All right, so here's a sample of an introduction, and I'm really hoping you can see this, trying to move it closer, and I'm going to read over it and I'm going to break it down all of its parts, so you'll kind of know what I'm looking for in the introduction. All right, so I have in Herman Melville's short story Bartleby the Scrivener, the character of Bartleby, while initially industrious at work, progresses to doing less and less at his office, finally doing no work at all. While the story is focused on Bartleby's phrase, I prefer not to, indicating that he prefers not to work. In fact, another issue, oh, wait a minute, I got an extra S there. Another issue, not likely Bartleby's preference not likely of Bartleby's preference, may be causing both his distress and his lack of productivity. So I'm going to try to see if I can move this up. I'm just going to hold enough with this for now. Get this easel thing here. Okay. The easel's going to fall down, I think, in a minute. Ah, there it goes. All right. Productivity, as well as bringing his lack. I can't read this. Bringing a plethora of problems to the other employees, the boss, and the business as a whole. When the boss comes into the office on a weekend, he finds that Bartleby's actually living on the premises, having nowhere else to go. Both in the 1850s and today, the stress of not having a home can contribute to a lack of workplace productivity, as homeless employees are often consumed with the difficult problem of finding shelter. So yours is only just going to be a paragraph. This is only a paragraph. It's just that it's written big. And we'll count how many sentences just to give you an idea. All right. This stress can also affect the other employees and the business owner, as they must both shoulder the additional workload and may attempt to figure out solutions to the unhoused employees' concerns, issues that were even more extreme in the 19th century, as the social problems which focus on, how about social programs? As the social programs which focus on helping the unhoused did not exist. In fact, the emergence of programs to help homeless employees can often ease the burdens of the homeless themselves, but also for their co-workers and supervisors. Herman Melville's story, Bartleby the Scrivener, shows the tragic effects of homelessness on the workplace. Whoa, I think this could really work. So I want to break this down. Hoping you guys can see this. My easel wasn't working. So this is what I mean by giving a summary of the story first. You need to give an overview of what the story is about. You don't want to just assume the reader knows that Bartleby is living in the office without telling them, for example. So that's what I mean by giving an overview. I mentioned his I prefer not to because it's key to understanding the story, right? So giving this general overview of the story, you must have, notice I have Herman Melville's full name, right? And I have the title of the story, Bartleby the Scrivener. You don't want to call it just Bartleby if you're working on Bartleby the Scrivener. You need the full title of the story, Bartleby the Scrivener. Titles of short stories are in quotes. Titles of books are italicized, such as Literature and Its Writers. Titles of short stories in those books are in quotes, so not italicized, all right? So I'm giving a summary of the story, all right? So I summarize the story, but I summarize the story as it pertains to my main point about homelessness, right? So I give the summary of the story, but then I indicate that, yes, I prefer not to. It indicated that he preferred not to work. But there's more going on here, is what I'm now indicating, something that is likely not his preference, right? Is this issue of homelessness, right? So then I explain specifically the boss finding him in the office when he goes in on the weekend, right? And then explaining how the stress this brings on the workplace, how it causes the lack of productivity for him, but also for the employees, for the boss, etc., right? And so then I'm winding into this, next to the last sentence before the thesis is what I call the transition sentence. It transitions between the rest of your introduction, and it merges the reader into the thesis, and then you have your thesis. So let's look at the thesis first, at the transition. So I think it's usually a very good touch in your thesis statement to have the name of the story again. The name of the story again. So the reader's really centered, and you're, as a writer, centered. Name of the story, and here's my idea about the story. Because your thesis needs to have the topic and your idea about the topic. The topic is the short story. Your idea about it also has to be in that thesis. So the short story that we're working with as an example for this workshop is Bartleby the Scrivener. The topic in this case is an idea that we have about homelessness. That's what we chose, right? So let's look at this. So it says, Herman Melville's story, Bartleby the Scrivener, shows the tragic effects of homelessness on the workplace. So, story topic is Bartleby the Scrivener. That's the topic. The idea is about homelessness, and especially that this story shows the tragic effects of homelessness on the workplace. So, could someone else have a completely different idea about this story? Yes, of course, right? So that means that this is our idea. We're clear on our idea. We're focused. We're only going to focus on this. We're not going to talk about every aspect of the story, only the tragic effects of homelessness on the workplace, all right? So then what I think you need after, I said I talked about the transition. So this sentence before is really the transition, I think, to that, because I explained the overview of the story with this focus on homelessness, but I'm mentioning this. These issues were even more extreme in the 19th century, as the social programs which focus on helping the unhoused did not exist. In fact, the emergence of programs to help the homeless employees can often ease the burdens of the homeless themselves. That should be a the there. But also for their coworkers and supervisors. So that is a transition to the thesis, because I'm saying that these programs, obviously they help the individuals who are experiencing homelessness, but they also help the employees and the supervisors too. All right, and then that just transitions right into the thesis, right? Kind of a bridge between the two. So that's I like to write my introduction first, and once you write your introduction, to me, you kind of have an idea of where you're going. You've got to have a thesis. You at least have to write your thesis or your idea about your thesis, have a working thesis, because then you know where to go. You know where you are going with this. Sorry, peekaboo, I'm going to try to pick up this easily again. All right, so this is the way that I do it, is that after I write my intro, right, and this is why I'm trying to figure out the ins and outs of this easel. I prefer a whiteboard in the classroom, but we got to work with what we got, right? So after this is how I do it. After I've written my intro, now you need a plan, basically, is what I'm trying to say for the rest of the paper. You can certainly, if you are used to, and if you've had good success with this in the past, of doing, a formal outline with the Roman numerals and stuff, then you could do something like that. You just need a plan of how to organize your body paragraphs, right? I don't know about you. I learned how to do that in high school, and I was super intimidated by them. I even like Roman numerals, but but they would intimidate me in the form of an outline. I would look at them and go, I need a nap or something. This is super intimidating. I don't know what to do with this, right? So I came up with my own, what I think is a more empowering, for me anyway, a little less intimidating way to think about it. And instead of, so here we go. Please stand up and don't fall down. Oh, good. Instead of calling it an outline, I like to call it a plan of attack. It's empowering. So the plan of attack is basically you have your thesis, you have your intro, you have your thesis, and then you have your 3 reasons or 3 sections or 3 categories that support that thesis, all of which are going to go in your body paragraph. So you need a plan of attack for this easel right now. Okay, so for example, I have those written down as ideas. All right, so we kind of have it mentioned, we set it up in the intro, right? So So here's the plan of attack, right? So the tragic effects. When I say that we have this homelessness in the workplace can cause tragic effects, we need to discuss those tragic effects in the paper. Anything that is in your intro and in your thesis must be supported in the body of the paper. So we need the tragic effects on the employee. Homelessness we're talking about, right? And we have to talk about it in the story. Don't write what they call a parallel essay when you're all of a sudden you're writing about homelessness and all the problems with homelessness in the workplace and you got sources, you're doing great. And you forgot all about Bartleby, forgot about the people in the office, forgot about I prefer not to. No, you're showing that the story illustrates this issue. So in every single body paragraph, you must deal with the story, right? So effects on the employee. Then I would say the other coworkers, effects on the coworkers, and effects on the business owners. The homelessness can show up. The tragic effects can be. These would be the categories, I would say. So, for example, so for body paragraph 1, I'm having a real hard time getting this to stand up. For body paragraph 1, for example, you could do something like, you need a transition word. So I'm going to say body paragraph 1. So this is paragraph 2 in the essay. It could be something like, first, the story shows the tragic effects of homelessness on unhoused employees, right? The employee themselves. Okay, then you want to explain that in about 2 to 3 sentences. You want to give your evidence from the story. You want to give your evidence from research. And you want to analyze it. So this is 2 to 3, 2 to 3, 2 to 3. And then that's it. All right, so you do this for every paragraph. This is how you build your body paragraphs. So here we go. So sometimes it's like, it can be, just the term literary analysis, a little intimidating, but it's not, right? It's what I call English lasagna. You are building your paragraphs. So I've showed you how to build the intro. Now you're going to build your body paragraphs. So this is effects on the employee, right? We have homelessness effects on the employee. You've got to focus on the story, but we're something like, you need a transition word that merges your reader right into your point. First, the story shows the tragic effects of homelessness on the unhoused, right, employees, and then you explain that in 2 to 3 sentences. You give your evidence from the story, like a quote. Then you have your evidence from your research, and then your own analysis, your focused thoughts, all 2 to 3 sentences.